And we just do it where everybody can see. But we'll talk about that part later. So now we're live.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay, while people are coming on, so I want you to teach me some stuff, okay? Really quick. You already taught me this, but just so we can get it on camera. So
What?
tell me how to say good morning. I know you guys don't say good morning. You have another way. Like, did you sleep well? So how do you say that?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna mention that. I'm gonna go through that at the end. It's better.
It's my interview.
Uh,
What you gonna
uh,
tell me?
uh, it's better
What you
through
gonna
the
tell
end.
me? I'm
That
trying to get you to do it at the beginning. See how you
it's
do
better
me?
through.
Okay,
Yeah,
this how
it's
you
better
do
through
me.
the. Yeah, it's better at the end. Um, but in Ubuntu, we have different things to say during the time or during the moment of the day.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, I'd rather if we mention it at the end, because I think I'll be a little more prepared. Because
Yes,
I'll
sir.
try to yeah, I'll try to see if I can mention as well from other languages. And as you know, I do not speak my language very well. I've been learning a lot, and I had to do a lot of studying to work on the book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Simply because colonialism in Portugal in Angola was very strict,
Mm-hmm.
and the family, the I wouldn't say well-to-do, but the educated,
Western
the
educated.
way yeah, Western educated families like mine avoided teaching their kids because they thought, well, as you know, our parents always think that they're doing the best for us,
Mm-hmm.
and many of of those families decided not to teach their own languages to the kids because they wanted to protect them. They thought that it would be bad for them in the future. Yeah, we do have that big problem in Angola. But I was lucky enough to come back to where I'm at now in Portugal, where my parents are, and work with them. I, I know very well that they did it because they thought it was the best thing
Yeah.
for their kids, and there were violent moments. Colonialism was just pure violence in every way.
Hmm. So on that note, wow. Let's start. I see there's a couple of people here, so we'll start. We'll jump in. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Ifetayo Ojelade. I'm a licensed psychologist, and I'm the executive director at A Healing Paradigm. Every single Wednesday, I am having conversations with my colleagues across the globe, and we are focused on Western psychology, Indigenous African spiritual practices, culture, and traditional healing. And one of the things that we know that is really important, I think we'll get in that conversation today, is around language and our tongue, the language that we speak and how we define ourselves. So I am really proud to have one of my colleagues, my brother Kandimba. He is in Portugal right now. And if you just heard him talk, he was talking about colonialism. He is based in Portugal, but he is from Angola. He is from the ethnic group of Bundu. I'm gonna say it right. Don't say anything.
Ovi, oh,
No, Oving Bundu. He is Oving Bundu, but he grew up in a Kimbundu community in Angola. And one of the things that, if you're just a student of history, what we know is in terms of the Portuguese were some of the earliest colonizers, the earliest practitioners in the transatlantic trade in human beings, and were brutal in terms of the transatlantic trade in human beings and in terms of colonialism. And so for me, this is a really special conversation because as a woman of African descent, that is working and doing this work in the United States to be able to connect to my brother who is from Angola but based in Portugal, and for us to be able to really have this conversation about these connections. And his book that is focused on Angolan based names, and recognizing those connections that even come out of African American language and our tongue is really important. And so I want to just really jump into this conversation, and I want to thank each of you for showing up for this conversation. And do me a favor, just share some energy with my brother Kandimba. So if you can just put something in the chat and say hello to him, then I would definitely appreciate that. We see a couple of folks that are jumped in already. So Kandimba, tell me, so you're a writer and you wrote this book, and it's in Portuguese now, y'all. So let's just speak Portuguese. You can't read it. So we're working on him to translate it into English. What made you become a writer?
Greetings, sister. I'm so glad that you pronounced my name so well, and that you didn't call me Aristóteles.
Oh, I wasn't gonna do that because I knew that was the
yeah.
European part.
Well, yeah, I'm a writer. I'm a published writer now. Um, I released a book last year. It's a collection of Angolan names, of basically all the Bantu speaking peoples of the area of Angola.
I'm a published writer now.
Yeah. In,
Sorry, that was me.
yeah, it's all right. In case in case some people don't know what Bantu means, I will explain basic stuff. Bantu is a word for a group of Africans that migrated. I think migrated is the best word, to Central and Southern Africa a long time ago. There were several migrations. It is said that these people, this group of people, first came from southern Nigeria and Cameroon, all the way down, and then they went from there to the east. So there were several migrations of of this group of people called Bantu. Bantu comes from the word "tu," person or human being. Many Bantu-speaking Africans use the word to identify a person or human being. And Ba is plural, also in many Bantu languages. I would say around 1860s, a German linguistic started using, identifying all these people as Bantu. So it wasn't us, it was actually the Europeans who used it to identify a group of people or a big family, a big linguistic group of people. The word is African, but the way it's used today to identify a group of people is European.
Interesting. Okay, wait. We can't even wait. Okay, stop. Wait. Okay, so the word "two" is recognized as human beings. The word "ba" is a group of people.
Yeah, two. Once again, two is definitely an African word. Is a which means a person or human being.
Okay.
Sometimes you find it. Sometimes you find it in different languages, such as sometimes you find it pronounced muntu, muntu, mutu, but it's usually at the end ntu, which means person or human being. And ba it makes it plural.
So human beings. Oh wow.
Yeah. So that's why you have, For example, Bakongo people. The Ba makes it plural.
A group of
And
Congolese people. Got it.
yeah.
Okay.
But the way it's used today to identify people is it comes from the Europeans. Nobody was saying when these people were migrating to the south, they weren't telling the people that they found, such as the so-called pygmies and the so-called Khoisan people. These are the people that were already there before the Bantu migration. They weren't telling them we are Bantu. There was no such a thing. But Bantu to us, yeah, no, Bantu was just it's a word for people,
Okay.
human beings. So the way we've been using is introduced by Europeans. And yeah, it really means a whole bunch of ethnic groups, more than 500 groups. Some people say even more than 500 groups.
500?
Yeah, yeah. The biggest group, basically, of Africans are Bantu speaking people. So we are. So these Bantu people. I don't bother too much about it. I work with Bantu culture, but I have Bantu pride, because then I would be separating myself from a Nigerian or Sudanese or a person from Mali or Senegal. They're all Africans like us. They just don't speak Bantu language. It's different. But I don't have Bantu pride. I work with Bantu culture and stuff like that, because it's important for people to know a little more about our culture. But I don't deal too much with this Nilotic and Bantu and all this stuff, all these strange and questionable European, I would say, terminologies.
Okay.
Can you call it terminologies? Can you call it terminologies?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my work is has been about Bantu speaking people of Africa, because we know very little usually, and the diaspora knows also very little about the Bantu speaking societies. Angola, for example, Americans know about Queen Zinga. African Americans would say, but this is just about all they know. It's easier to know more about Nigeria and Ghana and Kenya, because it's also they speak English, and their words that go straight, so it's much easier for you guys to have that kind of access. But yeah, so I published.
Let me ask you something, because you just said something I think that's really important, and how you said her name. So in the U.S., people would say Queen Nzinga, Nzinga, Nzinga. So that's how we would say it. And you taught me something about how her name is correctly said. So can you talk a little just about that really quickly?
The thing is that she was the queen of Kimbundu speaking people. Now, there's a big argument about it, because the Congo people say that she was a descendant of the Bakongo kingdom. Maybe her father was, maybe her mother or grandpa or one of of her grandparents, but she was the queen of Matamba and Dongo, those two big Kimbundu speaking kingdoms right next to the Bakongo people. And when and eventually, if she was the queen of the Kimbundu speaking people, it would be NJI and not NZI. That's what the Kimbundu historians and people say. She was their queen, and her name was Njinga and not Nzinga. Still a big debate, but the thing is that the word Nzinga also makes a lot of sense, but is different than Jinga in Kimbundu. So I prefer, in my book, I'm not even going to say prefer. In my book, I do the best to follow what has been not really said, but what has been proved the most. Also, I do my best to. I work with the institution of Bantu languages, and they help me a lot to know how to spell certain words in the Bantu languages of Angola. In my book, you will find NJI, Njinga.
Njinga instead of
Yeah,
Nzinga, Njinga.
and Nzinga in my book has to do with the Bakongo kingdom, and it was a title for a lot of warriors. This is why this is a big thing, because for them it makes a lot of sense. You
Is it
know,
female warriors?
um,
Female warriors?
yeah, warriors in general. All these generals and warriors received the title Zinga. So it's even the kings and some kings were called Zinga. So that's why a lot of people question. But in principle, for me, she was Jinga with a J.
Okay. Njinga.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jinga. I'll show you the cover of the book. The whole book.
Yes. And so we
This
have,
is what it
oh,
is.
wait a minute. It's bigger than I thought. That's a huge book.
No, it's not as huge. It's thick, but it's not big. Look at my hand. It's a pocket book. It's
You
called
know,
pocket
I was
book,
talking about big in
but it's
terms of
thick.
thick. Yeah, it's a thick
Yeah,
book.
it's about 400 pages.
You got
Yeah,
how
it
many
has
names do you have in there?
names more than 2,000.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so we definitely have
Yeah.
to get it translated into English, but can you put in the chat? Well, you may not be able to do it now, but if people wanted to get it in Portuguese and maybe hold the camera using Google Translate, can you put it in chat so how people can get it?
Um, no, I'm working on it. I'm translating the book. It's very important to me to have the book in English. I
Yes.
know there are people in America and other countries that are interested to have this book and to know a little more about Angola. And you'll be surprised how much we can learn from a name of a person. And our names are based on our languages. So
Yeah.
once you learn a name, you will learn something as well. And they derive from several aspects, including verbal aspects. We talk about this all the time. Huh? Almost every
Yeah.
night we talk about this.
You're always
So
giving me new
yeah,
names to think about. Yes. Yes.
yeah. So going back to the why am I writing or why am I a writer? It started when I was I was born in Portugal while my father was in school. Um, during the colonial years in Angola, the Portuguese did not build universities as a way of controlling the population. So whoever wanted to continue studying had to come to Europe, to Portugal. So there were no universities built in Angola, nothing in Mozambique, in Cape Verde, or Guinea-Bissau, Santo Tomé, all these ex-Portuguese colonies, there were no universities. So you had to, if you wanted to continue studying, you had to travel to Portugal, and then there was a way for them to control all these so-called intellectual. Now I wouldn't say society, but class of people, right? Um, When I say so-called, you know very well that our intellectuals are not intellectuals because they studied European concepts of life, right? We always
Right.
had our own, yeah. So my father came. My father was studying here, and I was born here, and we went back to Angola. The family went back to Angola when I was around before I turned 2 years old. So I can't remember. I cannot remember anything
Mm.
here. I only remember there was always somebody to play with me. Were too many. I think I was. I think no. I think I was the ninth child. So yeah, there were a lot of people around. So that's all. That's the only thing I remember when we left Portugal to Angola. Yeah, it's strange. It was. I've been talking to my parents about it. It's a big family, big African family, and a lot of people would just stare at us all the time. A lot of people had never seen black people before, and
Even in Portugal?
others admire. Yeah, even when we came back in the 80s, there were still people that hadn't seen any black people at all.
That's just so weird, I guess, because when I know I was surprised the first time I went to Portugal and I was in the airport. Well, I've only ever been in the airport in Portugal, and there's black people everywhere working. So I just think and
Yeah,
I was
but not.
Christian. I just assumed it was tons, always.
Yeah, there was in the 80s, people started coming
Got it.
more and more, but during colonialism, it wasn't that easy. You would have to go to Lisbon. In certain areas of Lisbon, there were students, and so, but anyway, so I grew up in Angola.
Mm-hmm.
We are from the like you mentioned before. We are of Imbundu from both parents. It's the biggest ethnic group in Angola. From the highlands, Planalto Central highlands of Angola, and Angola is divided only in. We divide Angola north and south only,
Mm.
but we are from the center of the country. And right after independence, the civil war started. All that, all those freedom fighters in Africa. They were
Mm-hmm.
helped by the Americans, and others by the community, by the communist society started fighting.
Right.
And we were in Wambo. Wambo is used to be called New Lisbon. It was the spot for the Europeans,
Mm.
and we left Wambo to Luanda, and basically I grew up there, and that's where people speak Kimbundu. Luanda is a Kimbundu speaking area, even though we have different people from all over the country, but the land belongs to the Kimbundu speaking people.
Got it.
And we were there for some time. My father was nominated as the first director of the University of Agostinho Neto, the faculty, the Department of, if I'm not mistaken, Economy. He was the first director.
Uh-huh.
I would say, is it dean or is it director? Would it be dean or director? I'm not
Um,
really sure.
it could be Dean.
Yeah,
Dean is like, was he was over that whole area?
yeah, he was the man. I would
Oh,
say he
okay.
was
So
the man.
probably the Dean. Probably the
Yeah,
Dean.
the dean. The first one, the first of the independent Angola. He was the
Got
first in
it.
the history. So
Okay.
yeah, he was
Okay, so
nominated
fast forward,
by the
Kandimba. Fast forward to you.
yeah.
How did you become the writer, though?
Yeah, the writing comes when So we went back to Angola. We stayed there a couple of years, and then my father was very uncomfortable with the situation, with the civil war, and even communism, which he did not accept the way things were. We moved back to Portugal. He stayed here for maybe a year or so, and then he moved to New York. We stayed here for 4 years and a half, 5. Then we went to stay with him in New York. We went to study. We were young, 14, 15, 16-year-old kids.
Mm-hmm.
While in high school in Manhattan, I came across Richard Wright's Black Boy, and it blew me away completely. That was he's talking about the 30s and 40s in the south of the states, if I'm not mistaken. But it was I felt so connected to what he was saying. My experiences were almost the same when I was a kid growing up in Portugal. And, I felt like, well, I didn't know you could put that into a book. I didn't know that we could put our all feelings into, into a book. So the Richard Wright is my first reference as a writer. I was blown away with that book, and then I heard about Native Son.
Yes.
I didn't get to read the whole book. I did what people usually don't want you to do. I watched the movie. They prefer. Yeah, I didn't read the book. I came across the movie before the book, but the movie blew me away as well. So it was Richard Wright that this is the reason why I became a writer. And yeah, it's the African American community that was very inspiring to me. I started following other writers. I was really excited about Black people writing their own experiences. And I knew right then, I was about 15 years old. I knew that I wanted to write about and for Black people. So that's what I've been doing. That's what I will always do. My objective is to write about us and to and for us. That's my first priority. I started as a poet.
No, I didn't know that.
I had a hard time.
You never told me that part.
I started as a poet. I started as a poet because it was the easiest thing for me to write. I had a hard time with English in the beginning. I knew nothing. I knew nothing about English when I went to the States. When I moved to the States, I was learning French here in Portugal. Spanish was very easy because when you speak Portuguese, you eventually learn Spanish. So we were watching in New York. We were watching Telemundo 24 hours a day, and my father started complaining, "You guys will never learn English. You need to stop watching Telemundo."
Which is its own level, in some ways, of white supremacy that you can get from Telemundo too.
It was interesting though. It was late 80s, early 90s, and I remember Telemundo and all these Goya commercials all the time. The product Goya all the time. All the time.
Yeah. I used to play the Panamanian, and they always had Telemundo on. So these are Afro-Panamanians, and every time I went over there, and so I got a whole education around Telemundo.
I went to a course, an English course for 6 months. All my brothers were much better than me because they were already learning English before here in Portugal, before we moved to New York. We went to a 6-month intensive course in Manhattan, and then we went to school. It was very hard. 6 months, and then we were thrown back to school. yeah, it was. I had a hard time, so I started writing poetry, which I thought it was easier.
Ah,
Um, so my first publication was a poem, and then um, things went on. I went to do other things in life. I've been writing for years, but I had never published again. I never published the poetry, my poetry as my own book. It was a collection of uh, of, uh, of, uh, of several works
writers.
by different people. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I don't even have it. I don't know what happened to it, but it
Uh,
was too long ago. Anyway, yeah, I'm a writer eventually because of people think because of my father, because he was around books all the time. I remember his office in Angola was like a library.
mm.
Um, but I thought it was boring as hell because it was all about philosophy and all this stuff. So I couldn't see myself. Yeah,
So you needed to go to look at some African American literature. That's great. That's a good
I,
connection. I love that. I really love
yeah.
that.
I mean, what? Yeah, I tried to read his stuff, Marxism and all this stuff, but I couldn't. You know, he couldn't. It didn't work for me.
Got it.
Um,
Got
but
it.
yeah, yeah. So I was introduced to literature basically from and about the African American community when I was younger, and it was one of the best things that ever happened to me because I started writing my own experiences. I mean, we don't really have books here. I've been in Portugal for the last. I've been back for 4 years now.
Hmm.
From the state, I was in the States for almost 11 years. Lived everywhere, traveled a lot, went to the South. You don't want to know my story. I've done everything. I traveled a lot. I used to be a traveling salesman, so I had an opportunity of learning a lot and seeing a lot of things. And I went to the South for the first time as a a traveling salesman, and I was kind of shocked because I used to traveling salesman in a suit knocking people's doors, right? And I remember I didn't know anything about poverty in the South,
Mm.
so that was kind of shocking to me. But it
Yeah.
wasn't just about poverty because you also have middle class African Americans,
Mhm.
uh, and all this stuff. It wasn't just that. What I really wanted to say is that I met this elder, maybe in his 80s, uh, with a guitar, and we talked a little. I told him that I was from Angola and stuff. He had never met an African before. Um, we talked a little. I was already very. I always ask too many questions. And people in the South, black people from the South are a little more reserved, like a lot of African people when you go to villages.
Mm.
The children seem to act just like a lot of the African kids. You don't really just come up to somebody and start asking too many questions, especially if the person is older than you. So the kids
Mhm.
just
Oh
kept it
yeah,
quiet.
definitely not.
Um, yeah, this is how we were brought up traditionally. You know, you don't, if you're a kid, you don't talk unless you are addressed to. If they're older people, you don't just get there and start talking. There are
Mhm.
ways to do it.
Right.
And so I could relate to a lot of things that I saw. And going back to the elder, I think in his 80s, early 80s, and we talked a little, and this was South Carolina, somewhere in South Carolina. I say somewhere because it was really, it looked like a plantation to me.
Mm.
I can't remember which city. We talked a little. He told me a very strange story that his grandmother had flown to the sky, literally, and he said that he met people that saw her flying to the sky. He had he sang a song. He had a guitar. He sang a song called John Harry. John Herrick or John Herrick. He said it was a traditional old song from there. I can't remember.
John
Something
Henry.
about John
Yeah.
Herrick. Yeah, John
John
Herrick. I
Henry.
remember. This is it. Yeah, that was it. And I was completely kind of shocked about it because in New York, you get introduced to Africa, but it's just history and a lot of people going after their roots and stuff, but not that way. Not like going to the South and talking to people and meeting people and see what they eat. This was a little different. My experience with African Americans in New York was completely different than the ones I met in the South, because in the South I felt closer to Africa, in the sense that people were a little more natural to their culture.
Okay, wait a minute, Kandimba, you never told me this story. Hold on, because you just said something that I don't even know if you realize how significant it is. You said that this elder in South Carolina was playing his guitar and he's telling you this story about his grandmother flying.
Yeah, to
That's
Africa, to
that
Africa,
flying. Okay.
to
Do you
Africa.
have you read all the stories? You know that is like a really common theme among African Americans, right? You just have never said this to me. I'm shocked right now. So there's a lot of stories about that. Like there's a story in Igbo Landing. Have you heard the story of Igbo Landing? So
I don't think so.
there when you look at there was an organization called the WPA, and it
Mm-hmm.
was during 1930s, I think. So the Work Progress Association, I think that's what it's called. They would go around and they would write all these stories. They would talk to people that had formerly been enslaved, and they write down stories. The WPA has hundreds and hundreds of stories of African Americans talking about their ancestors that had been enslaved, either firsthand
Mm.
eyewitnesses or stories that have been passed down of African people that would one day just stop working. They would be out in a field on a plantation. They would stop working and they would fly away. Story after story after story.
Yeah.
So one of the bigger stories is the story of Igbo Landing. And Igbo Landing, I feel like Georgia, if somebody's listening and they know, then they can jump in. Georgia, South Carolina, definitely on the coastal sea islands. There's a huge ship that comes in of enslaved human beings, predominantly Igbo folks. And in this particular ship of Igbo people, the Igbo folks wasn't having it. They wasn't trying to be enslaved. So there's two different versions of the story in the historical record. What the Europeans that were enslaving them said is that the people fought back, ship sank, and the enslaved people walked back into the water and drowned themselves. With the people
Hmm.
of African ancestry, the African Americans that were already here, what they said is that they saw the people fly away.
Hmm.
Different versions of that.
Interesting.
Thank you. Dr. Corey Claiborne is saying it. It's St. Simon's in Georgia. It's an island off the coast of Georgia. And so that's a big story. So it's interesting that you heard that firsthand. So I've read these stories, and Dr. Claiborne that's responding, she's a writer also. She she knows this. There are lots of folks that write about these stories, but it's rare to actually interact with somebody that heard the story firsthand. So I've read it. You're the first time that I've ever heard anybody say that they talked to someone that's
Hmm.
that story. Wow.
I thought, yeah, and I wrote his name down years ago somewhere. I have stuff that I left in the States, but I wrote the name down of the person. Old man, to me, it was like an old looking plantation. And I went to knock on his door to sell this miracle product, That was my thing, and I met a lot of people doing that. I learned a lot. Yeah, New York was different, but also very, very, very important. Early 90s, a lot of African Americans looking for their roots, and it was the right time to be there. It was the right time to be there. I met people that took me to several events, and I joined a capoeira academy. And through the Capoeira Academy, I met a lot of African Americans. Anyway, let me go back to this book.
Okay. Yes. I know. So we got 20 minutes left, so we're gonna talk about the book. Like, tell me about the names in the book.
The names in the book. Yeah, why is this book important? Well, first of all, it's the first Angolan book that deals with names from just about every ethnic group. Bantu speaking people, as you know, Angola is not just Bantu. We have the so-called Khoisan people. They were there before, but this book is just about the Bantu ethnic groups. It's the first one. There are several books about names, traditional names, but specific about ethnic group, about a certain ethnic group. So this is the first one that includes just about all ethnic groups. It took me 10 years.
That's a labor of love.
10 years. It's a labor of love. I started I started writing the book in Amsterdam. After New York, I moved to Holland.
Because you was partying, huh? Just partying in Holland. Come on, tell me. I know you was partying in Holland, because that's what people go there to do. They party.
Everybody thought I went there to party and all this. I had locks, and everybody thought this guy is going to go just for the partying and to smoke. But actually, no, I left the States. I wanted to try something different. And since I was born in Portugal, you have part of the European community and able to travel and to move around freely and easily. I said, "Oh, listen, I'm gonna take a break from the States because I needed that break, and I think a lot of Americans as well need that little break because the States can be pretty heavy." So I took a break from the States. I moved back to Portugal for like 9 months before I went to Holland. I didn't like Portugal at all. In 2001, around 2001. And so I had a friend in Holland who advised me to visit Holland. And I'll probably, like I said, I was 9 months in Portugal, and I said, okay, I'm either going back to the States or I'll go to London because I have some friends there. She said, well, I know you better than those guys in England. Just come around and you might like it. And people here speak English as well, even though the language is Dutch, they speak English. So I knew this person much better. We were... Yeah, she was a student in the same academy in New York. So we knew each other.
Got it.
Much better. So I said, yeah, why not? I'm just going to visit her. I'll stay there for some time. And then if I don't like it, I'll just go back. Well, I got there. I liked it. But then people wanted me to teach capoeira. And that's how I stayed, basically. I went to Holland. I opened the first academy of traditional capoeira. I'm the first person to take traditional capoeira, which is called Capoeira Angola. I'm the first. The Capoeira Angola exists in Holland because I took it to Amsterdam in 2002, 2003. So now there are people they're playing there, but they were studying with me for like 10 years or so.
So this is interesting because I assume that you became a writer because of some connection with your dad, or just him being an academic. And I assume that you learned capoeira because you're from Angola, and you learned both of those by interacting in the U.S. Like, well, so this is
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
you learned.
yeah, yeah. Like I told you, yeah, I was around. I grew up around a lot of books, but I wasn't interested in Marxism and Leninism and all this stuff. I didn't care for this stuff, and I kind of felt sorry for my father because he had to read all this stuff for years and years. My father was studying
Got
for
it.
too many years. I tried it, but it wasn't me. I wanted art. I wanted arts. I wanted to do something with film, with documentary, books, talking about our own experiences all over the world as Black people.
So tell me a couple of names, like pull out some names that are in your book that might be interesting to us.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I would like to start by my name,
Okay,
if you don't mind.
sure.
So anyway, the book has been written because we Angolans need it very much. Um, uh, um, colonialism, as I mentioned before, was very violent in Angola, um, and many a times names were prohibited, not by law, but the church
Mm-hmm.
or the religious institutions worked with the colonial governments.
Yeah.
So there was no law really saying that you cannot have your own name, but if you had to study, you had to study under a Christian institution, and that's where you usually got your name changed. In my case, my grandfather was born in my grandfather was born in 1910. My
Mm-hmm.
grandfather was born in 1910, and no, we're talking about a person that still saw slavery around that time. So legally, slavery stopped, but as you know, probably better than me, that he continued.
Continued. Yeah.
Yeah, he continued, and he told my father that he still remembers people being kidnapped, 1915, 1916. Um, Anyway, my grandfather went to school in 1917, around 1917,
Mm-hmm.
and they told him, listen, his name was Sachingong, and Kandimba was his father. So Kandimba comes from his father. So he would be Sachingong Kandimba in the Western way, because we didn't traditionally, we don't carry our last names, as you know. We have names. We are given names.
Yes.
But he walked into this Catholic institution as Sachingong Kandimba, and he came out as José Amandio Coelho. José, because he was giving a Christian name. They had the brilliant idea that Sachingong wasn't a proper name. You know what I mean when I say brilliant. So they baptized him with the name Joseph. Amandio, which also is a Portuguese name. It was his teacher's name. His teacher liked him very much. "Are you so cute? You're so smart. Can I give him his name? My name?" He asked his father if she could give him his name. I don't know if my great grandfather had the power to say no. I don't know about that. I don't know. I really don't know. Well, for what I hear is that my great grandfather said that his son, my grandfather, could be baptized with those names, but to not take away his African names.
Mm-hmm.
They did it anyway. They
When
did
you
it
tell
anyway. And then Kandimba. So my grandfather, instead of Kandimba, his father's name, they translated into Portuguese. So the young man walks in as Sanchigongo Kandimba and comes out as José Armando Coelho, completely Portuguese name. So the family is Coelho, which means Kandimba, yeah, a rabbit.
Quick.
Yeah, yeah. But you don't translate names, as you know. You don't translate names. What's the meaning? What's the meaning of the name Nkosi? Just give an example. It's a Congo name. It means lion. Okay, from now on, your name is Lion. No way.
No.
Because yeah, no way. So, but that's what happened to my family. Legally, my father and his kids are Coelho and not Kandimba. Legally, on paper. But you will find half of the family is Kandimba legally, and the rest is Coelho. Some kept it because they didn't go to Catholic institutions. See, here's the deal. Here's the deal. We had the Catholics and we had the Protestants, Americans and Canadians. Are you following me?
I'm following you. I'm following
you. So the people that went through the Canadian and American institutions usually kept their last names. So meaning that the Americans and the Canadians allowed us to keep our last names. Yeah, allowed us. But there was a way to get more people to their church.
Got it.
It's just a strategy. Okay. But the first name was usually changed, so we have too many European names. And during colonialism, many of us learned to reject and look down on our names and our identities. If you look down on your language, you eventually look down on your whole culture and your names derived from the languages. Kandimba is hair. Is how do you say hair? The rabbit hair with the bigger. Yeah.
It's
why?
Hair, they don't have rabbits there, so it's hair.
Yeah. So even the translation was stupid. But Kandimba means hair, and hair in our why? Because in our culture and many Bantu cultures is the animal is seen as is connected to smartness. So calling somebody a newborn Kandimba is calling him a very intelligent or smart child. So that's where the name comes from. That's the origins of the name. And I started studying a little more the names of my grandparents, and fell in love with them completely. And I said, listen, I gotta do something about this. I first started writing something simple just for the family, with all the names of our grandparents, and looking for the meanings. Some I already knew because I know the language a little, but most of them I had to call my parents and stuff like that. And then I had a good number of names, and I said, listen, this got to be a little more than just names about my family or my ethnic group. It's got to be about Angola. Period.
And then you said it's a 2000 name. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a name I wanted to ask you about. You were saying, I think you said the name Shaniqua. There was a name that African Americans use, and you asked me, was it Shaniqua that you asked me about? And you said, oh, that's a Bantu name. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I got two things. Yeah, I got two things that I'm going to open the book because I'm getting old and I can't remember everything I got here.
Okay, go ahead.
Interesting things in this book about connected to African Americans or the African American community. Interesting things. The whole thing is very important for all Black people and all African Americans, because we know very little about Angola, first of all. And many African Americans are descendants of people from Angola and the Congo, and they don't know that. So we need to pay a little more attention at that. But anyway, going back to what you just mentioned, I got these two names, maybe three. They might be connected to the African American community. We talked about this before. We have a name, Ngombo. It's a Umbundu name.
Mm-hmm.
Derived from Ongombo, and also it's a Kimbundu name derived from the word Kingombo. Ngombo exists in several Bantu languages in Angola, and they have different meanings.
Mm-hmm.
Ngombo is not in my language, but I think in Lunda and the Choko people's language. Ngombo is the divination basket. That's Ngombo.
Mm-hmm.
So the Ngombo that I think is related to
Like this one?
to
Like this?
yeah, that's Ngombo. That's Ngombo.
Okay.
That's a
Let me see if I
Ngombo.
can make
Yeah.
it so people can see it. Okay.
That's Ngombo. The Ngombo that I have related to the African American community has to do with what we call okra. I'm going to open up here.
Okay. So I want to put a little bit of translation on that. So what our brother Kandimba is saying, how we would say it with our American accent would be gumbo. So that soup that people make. So he's going to read
So
yeah.
yeah, I'm going to do my best translation. So I have it here, Ngombo, Ngombo, Ngombo. It derives from Ngombo, as I mentioned before, which means we call it kiabo as well, which means okra. Is there another word in the States for okra? It's just okra, right?
Okra, yeah.
Just okra. Yeah. As a name of a person, comes from why would people be called Ngombo, okra? It has to do with the with people that talk too much or might talk a lot on your back. Why Ngombo? Because it's how okra. This is what okra does to your mouth. You feel kind of we already talked about this. What's the word?
That is slimy. Okra slimy, and then
slime. Slime. Yeah. So when you have the name Gombo, or better yet, the origins of the name Gombo have to do with somebody that can't stop talking and sometimes talks too much, and or bad talks somebody. That's what it.
That's so hilarious.
Yeah.
I didn't even know. So wait a minute. Let me clarify this. So gumbo is the actual okra, but you can also use that as a name for someone and it's usually someone who talks a lot or is gossipy and talks behind people.
Gossip. Yeah, but you understand what I'm saying? It's the way how okra is it's not really chewed, but yeah, the way it feels in your mouth. But not only that, of course, because every name has a story. I mean, a person named Ngombo could give you this answer, but you could meet somebody else that could say, well, our family is called Ngombo because we planted Ngombo for many years. So the family becomes, like the fisherman and stuff like that. In English, you find it as well. It was a profession of somebody or a group of people. So you said Ngombo, no, is Ongombo or Kingombo? Yeah, in Bundu and Kimbundu. So Ongombo or Kingombo. And
Gumbo.
Yeah, and then now disconnected to the African American community, I mentioned that that is probably connected to the expression okra ngumbo. How do you guys pronounce it?
Gumbo.
Yeah, okra, because it's a dish that has okra on it.
And here's the weird thing about it. I don't know if you realize this. that like the gumbo that I make doesn't have okra in it at all, but we still call it gumbo. But there's no
Still call
okra.
it gumbo.
Yeah, it's just
Oh.
it's seafood and chicken, and some people put
Uh-huh.
pork sausage in it. But the gumbo that I grew up with and the gumbo that I make now doesn't have any okra at all.
Yeah. The word I'm going to mention is not in the book, but it
Okay.
exists within the African American communities of the South. It's
Uh-huh.
called jiguba.
Jiguba.
Jiguba is our word. It's a Bantu word. It's peanut. It means peanuts in our language.
You told me that
That's
was
what it is.
before. Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, yeah. We say jinguba.
Okay.
Jinguba.
And so actually
So
it's more of an
yeah.
old
Go
school
ahead.
word for peanuts. Like you don't hear people, at least I don't. I don't hear people in like everyday language use goober now. But like when you look at older stuff, I was even looking at something with George Washington Carver because he was really well known for peanuts, and they talk about peanuts being called goober, but that's not a common
Uh-huh.
word now.
Yeah, that's our word. That's a Bantu word.
Oh,
Definitely from the area of Angola. Definitely from the area of Angola.
got it.
I'm looking for the I'm looking for the one you mentioned, the famous Shaniqua. You know, yeah, one of those. It's funny when you're an African in the States and you hear the name for the first time, you think, where did they get that? It sounds so African. Even so, you might not know that it's an African name, but that's how we usually um, react when we hear names from some names from the African American community. So Shanika was always one of those names that we asked, where did they get that name from? Where did they get the name? Um, so I found out. Yeah, I'm not looking for it right now. I found out that we have, the south of Angola is populated by several people, and one of the biggest ethnic group there is the Ovambo. The Ovambo people were divided by the Portuguese and the Germans. So some are in southern Angola, and the others are in Namibia.
Those are the ones that the Germans were exterminating.
Not exactly. Those are a different. As far as I know, there's a different. I know what you mean, but it wasn't Novambo. They weren't Novambo.
God,
The genocide weren't the Ovambo. It was a different ethnic group.
okay.
But they fought until the 1914s, 1914s. That was when the Europeans finally took over that area. I mean, because the Portuguese couldn't do it, and the British and the Germans gave them an ultimate: if you don't take over, we'll take over. And so the Portuguese attacked from the north, which is southern Angola, and the Germans and the English attacked from the south, and that's how they were able to take over the area. So going back to the Shaniqua thing,
Shaniqua.
yeah, we have the Ovimbundu have this name, but it's pronounced Shanika.
Shanika. Okay.
Shanika. I don't know if you have that name in the States. I have a friend
I'm
that
sure
says
we
that she has
do.
heard Shanikas. Yeah.
I'm sure.
And Shanika is something promised.
Something promised. Shanika is something promised. Now, what's the
Yeah,
ethnic group
something
again?
promised. Something promised.
Something
It's
promised.
the
What?
Ovambo people.
Ovambu, the ones you were just talking
Yeah,
about.
the biggest
I'm
group in
gonna put this.
Namibia. And
I'm gonna put this question here. So my colleague said when you were talking before, when we were talking about the gumbo, um, she said this is the same in the Gullah. Have you read Africanisms in the Gullah dialect by Lorenzo Dow Turner?
I've read so many things, but it was probably more than 20 years ago, so I can't
Got it.
remember.
Fair enough. Okay, there's another one. I know. Oh gosh, we're out of time. But I want to ask you one more.
um,
Can I ask you one more?
yeah, if the battery can handle it, it's fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The booty. I saw you did this whole post on the term booty because we still use that. Like African Americans will talk about a woman's behind and use the word booty. And I saw you had a whole commentary on that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
No, but I think that had to do with the Brazilian word. I think not really American.
No. Oh, well, I mean, I saw you saying connected, and I was like, oh, this is the same thing. I had made a comment about it.
I'm trying to remember because I write so many things. I post so many things.
You posted it online. I
Um,
don't know.
no,
Yeah,
I think I was no. I was talking about the word bunda.
okay.
I
So
was talking about the
that
word bunda.
bunda. And what does
I
bunda
think
mean?
bunda has not to do with booty. I don't know. I don't see the connection yet. I haven't studied the word booty. I don't know anything about it. But I
You
was talking
posted
about
a thing
bunda.
online. I don't see
Yeah,
where I find that post because I was reading it, and
buttocks.
it
Bunda
was
is
like
buttocks. Yeah,
yeah.
bunda
Okay,
is buttocks.
fine. Okay.
Yeah, you find it in Brazil. You find it in Haiti, in Haiti.
Mm-hmm.
Several other countries use the word. But
Okay.
it wasn't booty. I haven't done anything about the booty yet. I
Okay,
gotta,
fine. So then you have
gotta
me posting something
yeah.
on here. Okay, so is there like I know your battery is about to die, and we are over an
Yeah,
hour now.
we can continue. We can continue if I turn on the laptop and we can continue for like 10 or 15 minutes more. What do you think?
We could do it like 5 more minutes. So you gotta give me some quick work, like rapid fire ones.
Let me see. Let me give it a second. Let me try to get in. Let me try to connect the laptop so that we don't have any. Yeah, we have to. It is a
Okay.
request now. Okay.
Okay.
Um. I,
Okay.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what?
I would like to. Yeah. Go ahead.
We could do a whole other thing while you're doing that. Keep working on it. And while you're doing that, I want to do a whole other thing because one time now I know you because you said this directly to me. You were telling me
Mm.
about we were talking about I don't know what we were talking about, but then you were telling me in terms of polygynous relationships in
Mm.
Angola. And one of the things that you pointed out, and I was telling you I had my students read about this, but people don't realize this. But you said that there's people in Angola, like this one particular ethnic group, where the women are married to more than one man. You remember when we had that conversation?
Uh, I think I mentioned that we have a queen right now.
Mm-hmm.
There has several husbands, but our grandmother also had several husbands, and a great grandmother the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it goes back to my request. I would like you to organize a live with some Angolans,
Okay.
English-speaking Angolans, of course, so we can talk a little more about our culture and identity, and we can
Okay.
share it with the African American community.
Okay.
I can invite. I just turn on the computer. 1 second. Let me see. I think I'm going to be able to. 1 second.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah. Okay. 1 second. This is.
Okay. So I'm gonna add you. So we're gonna do it at the same time.
Hello.
There. Boom! Technology. There you go.
Yeah. So the request is for us to do a live with some of other with several Angolan
Uh-oh, now you're freezing, Kandimba. So the joys of technology, I was able to switch him, but now he's frozen. So perhaps this is the end of our conversation today. Well, this has been a good conversation. So I know he's going to ask me. Kanimba, one of the things that he does also is that he has been organizing people of African descent in Portugal to do some memorial services around, I shouldn't say memorial services, but memorial events There you go. Are you there? Oh, okay, no. Memorial. He's gone. He'll come back in a second. He's been doing some memorial events around the transatlantic trade in human beings. As I was saying at the beginning, that the Portuguese were heavily involved in the European slave trade in human beings, and it was an ongoing and protracted struggle for hundreds and hundreds of years. So not only were they doing stuff on the continent of Africa in terms of enslaving people, but just all across the globe. And so a lot of the work that Kandimba is doing is really trying to help people mark that in Portugal itself. And so he's really big on trying to expose people of African descent, particularly African Americans, to the culture of Angolans, and to even being able to recognize the presence of people of African ancestry in Portugal. So that was one of the things that he was going to ask me to do. So I'm hoping that's a conversation that definitely we can organize, because I know for myself, when I showed up in Portugal for the first time and I saw that there were so many people of African descent that were working in the airport, I was completely shocked at the numbers of people that were there. I did not realize, and I should have realized, just because of the impact of Portuguese people around the world on the lives of our ancestors, but I didn't realize it. I think that he's there now. Yay. Okay, you're back.
I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. It wasn't my computer.
Okay. That's okay. I was just talking about the work that you were doing in terms of the memorial that you were pulling together around the transatlantic trade in human beings in Portugal. So I talked a little bit about that. And
thank you very much. I forgot.
Yes. And then I was a request for having these kind of intercultural dialogues between people of African descent in the US and people from Angola. So I mean, I definitely would love for us to be able to have that conversation. And even if the folks aren't English speakers, then I mean, we can always, figure out a translator.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But
we've done it before, though. We've done it before.
But that's the request, and this is why, I mean, an hour wasn't enough for us. We have too many things to talk. The idea was for you guys to organize another live and I will invite maybe 2 more Angolans, and so we can talk a little more about our identity as Angolans, our history. We can have a better perception of things that way, and to have a stronger link with the African American community. And I can always talk about a little more about what you mentioned about my projects here in Portugal. I am the founder of the Ancestral Tribute in Portugal, and we did the first one in 2017. We were planning to do the second one this year, but because of the COVID, we couldn't do it. But we are planning to do it 2021 around May.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted I wanted to talk a little more about it and the possibilities of inviting the African American community to come for the event next year. I don't know if people knew about it, but Portugal is the door to slavery in Europe and the Americas. So this is the first place. Recently, I mean about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, they found a cemetery of enslaved Africans in the south of the country, Faro, I'm sorry, Lagos. It has the same name as Lagos, so it's Lagos, the same name, in Algarve in the south. 150 skeletons of enslaved Africans, and you know what they did?
Is that the garbage? No, that's a different one than the garbage that they have.
No, there are no monuments.
Okay.
That are linked to our history here in Portugal. There's nothing. People are talking about it now. There are organizations working on it and stuff like that. Instead of building a monument, which eventually will show some respect to our ancestors, and who and when you show respect to ancestors, you show respect to the living people.
Right.
Instead of building a monument, they built a golf
Oh, that's what
court.
they do here. Yeah, they do the same thing. Same
Yeah,
result.
terrible,
Mm-hmm.
terrible. And we don't know what happened to the skeletons. We don't know what happened to the skeletons. We don't know. We don't know what happened to the skeletons. So that's something that I'll never forget. And I started the ancestor tribute because we need something. We need to remind people in this society of what our ancestors went through and how much we still suffer from that. You know.
Yes.
Yeah, the first ceremony was great. Was wonderful. Was right in the center of Lisbon. Kind of a touristic
Yeah.
area, but it was wonderful. It was something different in this society, and we are looking forward to for the second one.
I am definitely looking forward to the time that I can come. I want to thank you, my brother Kadimba.
Thank you very much.
Put up your book.
Oh, the book.
Your book again.
Uh,
So it is the Book of Angolan Names, and
Garden
in
Lady.
Portuguese, he is working on an English translation. I will put in the chat. I will put in the link if you happen to speak Portuguese and are interested. Oh, we can talk about the whole and
The symbol. The symbol.
yeah, it's like a bebe, so we can talk, but it's Congolese. Okay,
No,
so
no, it's chocolate. It's chocolate.
okay, no, no, no,
It's
no,
a
no.
chocolate symbol. The symbol. It tells the beginning of life.
Wow.
Yeah. On top is God. The bottom people or human being.
Uh-huh.
One side the moon and the other the sun. So it's a story. It explains how we came to exist. It's a nice story. We'll be able to talk about it the next time.
So we'll definitely have more conversations.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can stop this. So again, thank you for coming. So we can end. There's one thing, and this is not going to be a traditional translation. I'm wondering, this is probably something in Portuguese. So in the US, because we're in a time of corona,
Mm.
African Americans always take a language and we will make it our own. So in English, people are saying the coronavirus, the COVID-19. What Black people say is the Rona. Is there something that people of African descent say? Do you guys have a way of calling COVID-19 there? You got something like the Rona?
No, not really.
Oh, okay.
No, I guess I've been out of touch. I don't socialize since COVID showed up.
This is my social network right now. You see, I having conversations with people around the world like this.
Yeah, the only thing that is bothering people in this society is the very low numbers of deaths in the Portuguese speaking African countries. I think for a lot of Europeans it's hard to accept that. It's hard for them to accept what's going on. They're dying more than the Africans. Um, I'm sure that people are not being tested as much as some countries in Europe, but I mean, this virus is killing whole families. You can't really hide it forever.
Right, right.
Yeah. So the only thing that, huh?
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, there's a whole other conversation, but it's the only thing that I remember that people have been talking all the time. But thank you again for the invitation. Once again, I'm translating the book. I'm hoping to have the English version out by next year. I'll be looking for a publisher. Tell your friends that Kandima will be looking for an American publisher. I'll be looking for an African American publisher.
All right.
And,
Well, we know
and
there's some here. There's some
yeah,
here. So,
and I'm looking forward to for our next debate, the one I requested, still before the end of the year. and because I think it's going to be really, really interesting, and it has to be more than an hour.
Yes, sir.
It's got to be at least 2 hours.
All right.
Thank you very much, Ife.
No problem. Thank you.